Okay, so hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon the time zone you are in. My name is Deepthi Gogori. First of all, thank you so much for taking your valid time for attending the DBCC 2020 conference. So today I'm going to present on the topic understanding statistics in SQL Server. So before going into the session, I would like to thank all the sponsors. Without your support, this event would not have been possible. So a little bit about me. I'm a database administrator with 7 years of experience in managing SQL Server and databases. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and Microsoft certified solution expert. I did my master's in computer technology at Eastern Illinois University, and I blog for dbanuggets.com. That's my website. And if you would like to contact me, you can contact me on Twitter or through email. That's my user ID for the Twitter at dbanuggets. So if you have any questions regarding this session later, please do not hesitate to contact me. So what are we going to discuss in this session today? We are going to see what are the statistics, how to view the statistics, and what happens when they go wrong, and how to update these statistics. So statistics, what is it all about, right? Statistics are the blob structures which are created by the SQL Server, and they provide the information about the distribution of the data inside a column or inside the multiple columns or the indexed view of the table. So basically, this query optimizer will use these statistics and trust these statistics to determine how many rows will be returned back from the table, which is also known as a cardinality estimates. So the better and the accurate the estimates are, the optimizer will go ahead and choose and generate the good plans. So what could go wrong, right? Before going into what could go wrong, let's see how the queries are processed. Whatever the query which we are submit will be processed inside the SQL engine. There are two phases which any query should have to go through the SQL engine. One is the query optimization and the other is the query execution. Whenever our query is first time executed, it has to create the execution plan, right? So whenever a query is executed, first it will get passed, and then the initial logical pass tree will be built. And after that, the query will be sent to the transformation phase. At the transformation phase, many transformation rules are checked, and at certain point of time, the cardinality estimates are checked against those execution plans. At the transformation phase, we will there are several different kinds of query plans that will be created, and for each and every query plan that is created, the cardinality estimate should be checked. So after the cardinality estimates are checked, the cost is checked on those each and every execution plan, and once the cost which takes the lowest cost, that will be the winner. That query plan will be now placed in the plan cache for the execution phase. Now, once that query plan reaches the execution phase, based upon that cardinality estimates, the memory grants are provided to that query, and then the query will be going to the execution phase. So what could go wrong here, right? What if the cardinality estimates go wrong? What if our cardinality estimate just 100 amount of 100 rows in 100 rows if it estimates, but in actual the table will return 1 million rows? What if it's the case? Like the cardinality estimate go wrong, right? The estimates are wrong here. So the cost will be the suspect here. The cost will now will be checked for these equivalent plans which are created wrongly, non-optimally. And based upon this cost, with the wrong estimates, the non-optimal plan will be placed in the plan cache, and then the memory grant will be based upon that wrong cardinality estimate, the 100 rows instead of the 1 million rows. The memory grant will be allocated to the to the query in such a way that it will only provide few amount of the grant, and then because of that it will have to spill to the disk when it actually have to go to the execution phase. So just because of this one cardinality estimate went wrong, all the later phases went wrong too, right? The non-optimal plan has to place in the plan cache, and that's completely went bad. So that's the reason the cardinality estimates, if they are accurate, it creates a good plan for our plan cache, and all these like what kind of seeks to do or what kind of scans to do and how much memory we have to grant to that query, everything will go correct if our estimates are accurate. So now most of my session is about the demo based. So let's go and see how these statistics gets viewed and then how we update the statistics. Now let me share my management studio. Eric, can you see my management studio?
Right now we see the PowerPoint still.
Okay, I think I have to share it again. So I think I have to share back again. Now you can see, right?
Not yet. Yes. Now we can see.
Yeah. So in my demo, we are using the AdventureWorks 2016 database, but I mentioned here the AdventureWorks 2016 database as big because I imported a lot of data and I created 2 new columns by using the query that the Jonathan Kehais has written for SQLskills.com. So I will also provide you the backup of this database if you wanted to use later. So basically, the statistics can be updated in different ways. They can be updated automatically. Whenever our auto update statistics is turned on for the database level, then the statistics will be created automatically when you create a clustered index, non-clustered index, filtered index, or an indexed view. And automatically the statistics will be created on the single columns too. And also the statistics can be created manually on multiple columns or single columns and filtered values in the columns too. So let's see. Let me use the AdventureWorks 2016 database in the context. And then to view all the indexes in the table, we use sp_help index. So it will show us the index name, index description, as well as the index keys. So mainly we are focusing in this demo on the non-clustered index on the customer ID column. So whenever we create this non-clustered index, the SQL Server will automatically create in statistics on this particular customer ID column as well. We can use the sys.stats system views to system table to view the statistics on a table. It will show the table name, all the statistics. First of all, it will show the statistic on the primary key column, and then all the rest of the non-clustered index statistics, and then the system generated statistics. By seeing it, I can simply say that it is system generated, right? And also the stats ID are mentioned here. And this sp_help stats is deprecated. Still, we can use it, and it will provide the statistics name along with the statistics column on which column the statistics are created. And this is the main DBCC command we mostly use to check in deep, like what is the statistic, like if there is a statistic on a particular column, if we want to see that statistic in detail, we use DBCC show statistics. So when I execute this, in the result for every statistics in SQL Server, we have three components in it. The first one is the header, the second one is the density vector, and the third one is the histogram. In the header, we have the name of the statistic, and when was the statistic lastly updated, and how many rows were it there when it was lastly updated, and how much sampling has done. Right now it's 100% sampling, right? And how many steps we have in the statistics. Right now we have 153 steps, but maximum of 200 steps can be there on any index. And additional one step, the 201 step, the first one step will be for the if the column is null, if the column has null values. But here the customer ID do not have any null values, and we have 153 steps here. And some of the additional information, like if the statistic is filtered or not, or those kind of information are given in the header information. When you come to the density vector, here this is the density of this particular column. Now the density meaning how much of unique this column is, like how is this calculated? 1 divided by the total number of distinct values will determine this density. Now, when you come to the histogram, this is where the optimizer will go and gather those estimated rows from. The first column here is a range high key, meaning it will represent the number of customer IDs in that column. Not all of the customer IDs are shown here. Now we have the equal rows here. That meaning, for example, for the customer ID of 11,000, we have 231 rows, equal rows. For the value of 11,019 customer ID, we have 1,309 rows. Now, what are these range rows? For example, if we are asking for a customer ID in between these two, like 11,005, for example, the customer ID, it is in between these two values, right? So the range row shows how many values we have in these in between these two customer ID value. So that's the range rows. And the distinct rows, like how many unique values, distinct values are there in between these two customer IDs, that shows the distinct range rows. And the average rows, when you divide the range rows by the distinct range rows, you will have the average range rows. For example, if you divide 3,619 with divided by 18, you will have 201 rows. Now let's see how these statistics are gathered by the optimizer. And you also have, for the latest versions of SQL Server, we have DMVs where you can get the same information that we got from DBCC source statistics. The first one will show the header part of it separately, and the second part of the DMV will show the histogram part of it. Now let's see if we did a very simple select statement with a customer ID of 11,091. When you see this histogram, the 11,091 is a unique value in this histogram, and it has the equal rows of 2,156. Now let's see if it shows. If I turn on my execution plan and if I execute it, the execution plan should show the estimate number of rows 2,156, and the actual number of rows should be of 2,156. It's pretty correct, right? The estimates are correct because that's a unique value from the histogram. Now let's see, let's take a different value which is not represented in the histogram, the 11,225. When you check the DBCC show statistics, that 11,225 value comes in between this value as well as this value. So how do the estimate happens is it will take the average range rows value, which is 263.5. Now let's see if that is what it shows in the estimates. When you execute it, when you go to the execution plan, when you check the estimated number of rows, it shows 263.5, which is exactly what it showed in the histogram. And then the the actual number of rows is 154. Now, what I'm saying is, even though if the exact value is not represented in the histogram, still the optimizer can get the estimate from the histogram. And what if we declare a customer ID, set that customer ID, and then use that customer ID in the query we are using? When you go to the execution plan, now we see a little bit different, right? The estimated number of rows are 126.7, and the actual number of rows are 2,156. Now, where this value came from? Let's see. Because this is a variable, local variable, the optimizer doesn't know what is the value at the compilation time. So ultimately, the estimate have to go to the density vector. Now, when you see this show statistics, you see this density vector, right? The density vector will be multiplied to the total number of rows here to give that estimate for the local variable. Now, when you see this 126.7, which is the exact the estimate that we have seen for that query. Now, what if I use a non-equality instead of equality? Now, let's see what will happen with this type of query. When you go to the execution plan, now did you see the instead of the non-clustered index seek and the key lookup, it gave clustered index scan. And when you see the estimated number of rows, these are way too above, like 726,000. And when you come to the actual number of rows, it's just simply 19,000. Now, why is that so different, right? The estimates are way too off. Now let's see why. Whenever we use the non-equality thing, then it will always go to the 30% of the total number of rows. Now, when you see the 30% of the total number of rows, it gives the exact value, what it estimated, 726,000, right? So what if we put the same query in the store procedure and then run? Because we always have the store procedure, we don't have the queries we run all the time, ad hoc queries. We put them in the store procedure. So how does that work? Now, when I firstly execute, after creating this store procedure, when I first execute with a value, then it will go ahead and create the execution plan in the plan cache, right? For the first time, this is a pretty unique value. That's the reason it gave the exact amount of rows, and the actual number of rows match exactly. But what if I go and do the execute for the second time with a different value? When I execute that and go to the execution plan, now see the difference. It still estimated 77 rows because the initial the plan that has been saved in the plan cache is based upon the initial execution that we did for the different variable, right? But the estimate number of rows are way too different here. So this will cause a problem sometimes because we might have that non-optimal plan in the cache that might be used for all the executions where the estimates and actuals are way too off. And whenever you have so much of skew in your tables, then this might cause the problem too. Now let's see, instead of just getting the values from the sales order header table, let's join that table with the sales order detail table and get a 1 month of date range. And then let's do a second statement with a 12 months of date range. And let's see how these execution plan looks. When both of these queries run, this is like pretty simple, like the clustered index with nested loops. It looks pretty fine for that small date range, right? The estimated number of rows looks 4,000 and 4,600 or so, and the actual number of rows looks 5,000, which is pretty good for this small date range. Now it also did the clustered index seek because the number of rows that it estimates from the sales order detail also depending upon the how many rows it thinks it will come from the clustered index scan from the sales order header table. So that's why it, as these rows are as these are only some rows, it just did the clustered index seek on the sales order detail table. But if you check this execution plan, it just did the clustered index scan here, and the estimates are many here because it's a 12-month date range, right? 105,000 rows, and the actual number of rows are 105,002. So the estimates are correct here. But if you see here, it did a clustered index scan because that's a large amount of data, right? And when you observe here, it went through into the hash match here, which is expected because there's lots of data, and also it did a sort here. So that's how the execution plans are dependent with the large amount of data. Now let's trick the optimizer. Now let's say, like, if we observe the row count and the page count on this particular table, when you go to this clustered non-clustered index, the total number of rows we have is 2.4 million, right? But what if I'll go and trick the optimizer saying that there are only 1 million rows, which are less than half of the row count, right? If I do that by saying just go and update the statistics with the row count of saying as 1 million. If I do that and go ahead and run the same two queries with the 1 month date range and the 12-month date range, let's see what will happen. Now we see the same kind of plan here, right? But if you observe the estimated number of rows here, these are like pretty small, right? They are not correct. They are like 1900 rows, but when you go to the actual number of rows, it's 5,000 here. That is okay for the 1 month range, but when you come and see here, the large amount of data, when you see the estimates are 436,000 rows, and the actual number of rows is 105,000. So that's really way too different, the estimated versus the actual, because we did not only influence the optimizer saying so that it will get the wrong estimate, but also we influence in such a way that it will also spill to disk. Did you observe here? The sort have this boring symbol here, and when you observe, it actually spilled to disk. It actually spilled 15-20 rows into the disk onto the TempDB. Now, why this happened is because we tricked the optimizer to only believe that there are only 1 million rows. And because of that, it did not only bought the wrong estimates, but also it went away and also affected the memory grant, which it only grant few of the memory grant connections. And because of that, it did not have the enough memory, and it has to spill to the disk. So that's now what I want to prove here is if our estimates are wrong, it might eventually affect the entire execution plan, and it might choose the wrong, the non-optimal operators for the execution plan. And I would like to change that back to, because we just tricked the optimizer like we have 1 million rows, right? I want to make that is as or the original value, which is of 2.4 million rows. And then let's see how these update statistics work now. I'm still using the database AdventureWorks 2016. And let's now, when you see the DBCC show statistics for this non-clustered indexes, did you see that we have the 100% of sampling here? That means the statistics are updated 100%, right? With 100% of rows. But what if I go and I just update the statistics with the default sampling? The default sampling can be anywhere between below the 100%. For the large amount of tables, we have the default sampling of less than 10%. So let's run this and then see our DBCC show statistics, what it shows. Now the rows shows just 91,000, right? This is the default sampling that it used for my table. So generally this default sampling will be okay, but if it is too large, like there are too many updates that are going on to the tables, then that might be the different scenario. But here we did the default sampling. Now let me go ahead and turn the update stats off on the database. And then let me see what are the row modifications and then the old threshold and the new threshold, how it works for this table. So when you check the customer ID table here, customer ID statistics here, we have this rows in the table, right? And then it only sampled default sample, and these are the row modifications. We did not modify any rows, right? That's why they show as 0. And now the old threshold shows that we have to modify 485,000 rows in order for that auto update stats to kick in. And the new threshold is way too small. It's just 49,000 rows. Now we did not make any modification. Now let's go and make the modifications while our update stats is still off. I'll make bunch of row modifications on this customer ID column. Now it will take some time, but once it's done, as our update statistics are turned off, it should not make any, it should not update the statistics at all. It remains the same. Now see, our threshold has, the row modifications have reached way out of our threshold, right? It's just 49,000, and here it updated 890,000. And now let's go and do a simple select on the customer ID column again with the where clause, and see it will take a lot of time, and in our estimates it will show the wrong estimates. Now why? Is because our update statistics did not kick in when our row modification has a way above than our threshold, right? They have changed, but as our modifications, as our update stats is turned off, it should not show us any change in the, sorry, this is taking a while long because we have too many rows for this table. So let's see how this works. So this 1.9 million of rows. So what did I do? I did not turn on my execution plan. Let me do that again. I'm sorry about that. So it should show the same amount of the rows, it should not show that the old estimates will be shown. There won't be any change in the estimates. And then we are going to change that auto update statistics turn on, and then we are going to run the same query to see how this works. Like it should be immediately kicking in the auto update statistics, so it will go ahead and update the stats. So now, did you see here? Now the auto update stats were off, right? Now the estimated number of rows are still 1800, but the actual number of rows are way too above 890K. That's way too different because our auto update stats did not kick in. But now let me go ahead and see. Let me go ahead and change that to auto update statistics on, and then let me go ahead and do the select on the run the same select statement, right? But now when I run this statement, it should immediately, now it will take more time because while the update statistics are on, it will actually update the statistics first and then execute the new execution plan with the new statistics on it, the updated statistics. So it takes a while to run. And then now we have to see all the updated statistics freshly, very close to the actual number of the rows. Come on. So when you go to the execution plan, now the estimates are really, really close to the actual. Here we see 905K, and the actual number of rows are 890K, which are pretty close, right? Now let's see whether these statistics are really updated, right? Now when you see the results, now look at the time, it's 9:57 a.m. for me at Eastern Standard Time. It just got updated. Though it just got updated with the sampling rate, still it updated in the sampling rate, but still it worked fine, it updated. Now, if you go ahead and check our row modification should now be changed back to 0 because our stats update are our update stats updated this particular stats. It will be converted to 0 back again, the row modification counter. So I would also like to say that the important point is whenever the auto update statistics kick in, and when it updates the stats, when the row modification counter will reaches the threshold in such a way that the auto update stats kick in to update the stats. Once the stats gets updated, our execution plan get invalidated. In the next execution, when you run the next execution, then the new execution plan will be generated. And the old threshold is 20% plus 500 number of rows change, but the new threshold is the square root of 1000 times number of rows, which is way small. And this new threshold for the new SQL Server 2016 and for higher this feature, and the compatibility mode of the database should be greater than 130. And for the older version, if you want this new threshold to be kicked in, you can activate the trace flag 2371. And also, as we have seen, we can update the stats manually, automatically, right? But we can also update the stats asynchronously. Now, this feature is disabled by default, but what will happen if we enable that feature, right? Update stat asynchronously. Now, what it does is it will make sure that whenever our row modification hits that threshold, it will make sure like, okay, don't do the update statistics right away when the query is executing, right? Just go ahead and use the same old execution plan, which is already in the plan cache. Once that query is executed, then go ahead and run the auto update stats on the background. So whenever this is active, whenever this is set to enabled, then the auto update stats happen in the background later once the query is executed. But if our auto update stats is on with this asynchronously feature disabled, then we might see the wait type on the wait type on the server, like, because these updates happens immediately, right? Our query has to wait while those statistics get updated. So we will see this wait on sync statistics refresh wait type. So I would like to point that thing also, and I would like to hop back into my slides back again. Let me share my slides again. So, and I would also like to give you some points here, like whenever our auto update stats are on, we'll go from below. Like whenever our auto update stats are on, and if our SQL Server is 2012 and above, if there is no data change, like in our previous demo case, we have that row modifications, right? In that case, the plan should be invalidated. But if our auto update stats is on, and if there is no data change, then there will be no plan invalidation. And before that SQL Server 2012, if our update stats is on, regardless of if the data has changed or not, if there are row modifications change or not, then the plan invalidation happens. And before SQL Server 2012, and if our auto update stats are off, and regardless of the data change or not, the plan doesn't get invalidated. So what we have seen in this overview is we have gone through what are the statistics, how to view the statistics, what happens when they go wrong, and how to update these statistics. So to prepare for this presentation, I have gone through so many resources. If you want to learn more about the statistics, please follow these references. And I would like to really thank you each and everyone for coming to DBCC 2020. My daughter Nakshatra wanted to thank all the organizers, supporters, moderators. Eric, thank you so much. Specifically, I wanted to tell thank you so much. And each and every attendee, I would like to thank you so much for making this event successful. And if you have any questions regarding this session, please shoot the questions to me. Thank you so much.